Hi everybody, Carissa here for Sweet Stamp Shop today, and I'm super excited. I wanted to share with you how I created or altered this journal using some of my favorite Sweet Stamp Shop stamps. I pulled out Across the Miles for this. It fits perfectly on this journal that I picked up at my local craft store, and I'm going to use some pink Paislee papers from their Citrus Bliss collection to alter the journal. But first I'm going to start by doing some watercoloring. I wanted to create a watercolor background to place my stamp of the United States on. So I'm taking some watercolor paper, and you see I did like a wash of clean water on the paper so I can do some wet on wet watercolor with the Derwent Inktense pencils. And I love doing the wet on wet technique when I am creating backgrounds because the water really does all of the blending for you. It's very organic, and you just kind of allow the water and the pigment from the pencils to move and blend into each other. So I took some colors that I felt matched the collection that I was using. So I took two different color of yellows and then two different color greens and two different color of blues. And I'll have all of the colors listed on the blog post and in the YouTube description. So if you want to know exactly what colors I'm using, you can take a look there. So you can see to do this technique with the Derwent Inktense pencils, I'm taking my wet brush directly to the tip of the pencil, pulling off the color, and then allowing it to drop onto my already wet paper, as well as taking the color from my brush and kind of pushing it around and blending it in and moving it on my paper to get that really pretty blend. In between each color, I dry the paper, so I use a heat tool to make sure that the paper is nice and dry before moving on to a new color. The great thing, one of the things I like about using the Derwent Inktense pencils for watercoloring is that once they dry, they are permanent, so I don't have any worry about that pigment being reactivated when I layer a new color on top. So it allows me to get some deeper colors when I add that same color on top of it, and then it also allows me to get some pretty blends when I add new colors or different colors on top of each other. So you can see I am adding the green right on top of the blue, and it just kind of gives me a really pretty new shade when they are on top of each other. So that's pretty much how I created the background, and I'm just going in and adding some more of the colors, deepening it where I want it to be deeper colors, and then I will take some wet brush, and once I dry it all, I will add some paint splatters. So here I'm adding some splatters of the green and yellow, and then I'm going to take that darker yellow color, it's almost like an orange, and add some splats all over, and that finishes my background. So I'm going to do some heat embossing with this stamp. I have some gold in the collection that I'm using, and I thought it would be really pretty to heat emboss this in gold on top of my background. So I prepped it with an embossing buddy, so none of that embossing powder would stay or stick anywhere other than where I stamped with the VersaMark ink. Now I'm just tapping it and making sure that there's nothing where I don't want it, and then I'm taking my nice and hot heat tool and melting that, and you can see how it just really is really pretty on top of that watercolor background. I love the gold on top of that. Turned out really nice. So you can see the shine, and then I have a picture here of the finished product, and you can see how pretty it looks with all of that beautiful watercolor background and embossed right on top. So now I'm going to start altering my journal, but I wanted to add kind of like a theme for the journal. And so I love the, so I pulled out the Outline Lore Alpha by Sweet Stamp Shop, and I'm just going to spell out summer. So I'm kind of just rearranging it or arranging it on that journal card from this collection, the Pink Paislee collection, and kind of seeing if it'll fit. I love that about these letters, that they're all individual and they're clear, and you can really see if what you want to write or stamp is going to fit. And then I'm using this tiny block, which is also from the Sweet Stamp Shop, and it's the perfect size for these little stamps, these little letter stamps. So I am using Versafine Onyx black ink because I want to also use my Inktense pencils and fill in those letters with some coloring. So the Versafine ink is really great for watercoloring. It dries fast. I don't have to heat set it, and I don't have to worry about it smearing or smudging, so it's great. It's one of my go-to inks when I want to do any type of watercoloring. So I'm just going to stamp this R, and then we'll be ready to color. I am doing this little ombre effect with my Inktense pencils and some Wink of Stella clear. So I laid down my color using the two blues that I used in the background, and I just created my ombre with the darker color at the top and then the lighter color on the bottom, and I colored that directly onto the stamp. And now I'm taking my clear Wink of Stella, and it activates the pigment from the Inktense pencils, and I can pull the rest of it down to the bottom, which I didn't color in, and it'll be lighter. So it gives me this really, really pretty ombre effect, which is exactly what I was going for this sentiment. And then I also used the road trip stamp from that same stamp set Across the Miles and stamped that underneath. I thought this would be a great little journal to take on any summer road trips. You could document what you do, where you go. You can tuck in any ticket stubs or anything that you pick up along the way, and I think it will just be a really nice little thing to have on a summer road trip. So now I'm assembling. I cut all my pieces, and I sponged on some ink on the edges using Memento Toffee Crunch ink. And I'm just kind of placing everything, making sure I like where I want it. And now I will add some adhesive and just kind of assemble as I would a card. This is probably about 5 by 7, I believe. It's not a very large journal. And so I just use it and kind of think of it as a card, but maybe a little bit of a larger canvas. And I'm just assembling everything. I did use some foam tape for the watercolor panel because I like using foam tape. It kind of takes away any of the warping that might have occurred with all of that water medium. And that's it. That completes my journal. I think it's super cute. I love the watercoloring and the gold embossing with these stamps. And I like that I can use the outline lower to create my own sentiment. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe and follow and thumbs up and all that, and I'll see you next time. Bye.